I go from cult documentaries to Love Island. I eat it all up. Give me more.
Hi, I'm Kristen Maldonado from Pop Culture Planet. It's so great to meet you guys. How you doing today?
Hi, good. How are you?
Great. I'm better now that I get to chat with you guys about this crazy movie. I'm still shook after just that whole ending, but I'm curious because I feel like cults are just such a crazy topic to dive into. I mean, even I don't know if you guys saw more recently that TikTok cult documentary that's been going around. I'm like, what? So, what kind of research did you guys do kind of going into this? And did that impact your portrayal of the film at all?
Yeah, I definitely kind of had my own interest in cults just because it's such a fascinating subject. But other than just like, random YouTube scrolling that I'd done, that was kind of all I really knew going into this. But in working with Jordan and talking to her, she kind of showed me a few resources, a few kind of cult-like situations that she had um, drawn some parallels to for our film. And that was like the most of what I did was just kind of listening to her and seeing where she was drawing her inspiration from. And there's a lot out there that maybe you wouldn't even think is a cult, but really when you look at the ins and outs of it could qualify, like definitely qualifies as one. And that's something that I think we kind of look at in this film is like something that looks so beautiful and so alluring. I guess it's kind of the point. Um, but how it can have such a be rooted in such evil.
I am a big sucker for cult documentaries or anything group related. I think it's so interesting. It really intrigues me, human behavior in groups. So I go from cult documentaries to Love Island. I eat it all up. Give me more. So I think definitely having that sort of inspiration. And then also just looking around me, after COVID, I think it's definitely a time I feel that where a lot of people are lonely, not just older people, but from every generation and are looking for a sense of belonging.
I think that's a great point of just like loneliness kind of at any age, especially with like the internet and things like that. It's so easy to just like be home alone forever. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, well, I'm in my 50s, so I've just remembered so many of them over the years. I mean, I'm old enough to remember the original Jonestown. I remember seeing the footage from that, and it was just like, wow, that's just such a bizarre, crazy, tragic ending to what would have seemed to those people like a utopia. And so I've always been really fascinated by them. We've seen so many of them over the years, and some quite dramatic endings to them as well. They tend to sometimes culminate in quite a frightful fashion. So I love the psychology of it. I think the film deals with a lot of that really interestingly, and the way that it kind of, in a way, kind of pits Ben and Mazzy against each other, even though they love each other as father and daughter, but would both have kind of blind spots by the people that we meet. So yeah, I've always really been fascinated by it.
I think that's a great explanation as well of just like those blind spots. And, the reality is, I guess, like nobody's like, I'm trying to be in a cult. It's more like you believe in something or you're trying to find a community. And I'm curious about like sort of that aspect of trust when it comes to, meeting new people and other people. And can you really believe that that person has the best interest for you?
I mean, the film deals with that really well. I think this sense of isolation, which we've never felt more than in the last 5 years, and I really feel for Sadie's generation and younger, because there was just that period where they missed out on so much. At least the older generation have had enough comparable different experiences to be able to put it into some kind of context. But I just, yeah, I've always felt like, it just makes people so vulnerable, and it makes it so easy to understand how people can go down a rabbit hole, and the algorithm just does such a great job at feeding you your poison. So it's yeah, super interesting.
Nobody just does something probably for the good of the world. You can be, you know, as good for the world as you're trying to be, but there's always a personal goal, I think someone has, or personal desire. And so that's where the vulnerability lies, I think. and that's where people sometimes go wrong.
That's a great point. I feel like there's like almost an extremism of the like, you know, it's great to want to like help the world and help people
Yeah.
and things like that, but also like, what if it's a cult?
Yeah. I mean, people don't join a cult, you know, people join something that they believe in and that they find a sense of belonging and reflection and understanding and growth, you know, and then all of a sudden they seem to be in a cult. It's something that we're more aware of now because there's all these documentaries, there's all these things that create awareness, you know, like this movie, but it's still happening everywhere.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about what it was like kind of acting alongside this cast. Did you have any, you know, favorite scenes to bring to life or even maybe a more challenging moment?
Oh, there were many challenging moments. I can't spoil anything, but toward the end, there's a big challenging moment. I feel like where her whole journey comes to a head, and she can't escape her fate. And I think that's a very scary moment. And that was a challenging one to play because she has so many sides to her, and in the end, a big emotional engine for her is revealed. And that was a wonderful challenging scene to play. And then the scenes with Eric were so wonderful and lovely because he's such a wonderful and lovely human, and we really connected. So those scenes were just fun, just so much fun to play.
I mean, we've kind of been laughing today about the first thing that we had to film together. Yeah, like the final sequence in the water, like that kind of all took place on, I think, my first day, and or definitely our first day together. So that was kind of, that's been hilarious to look back on because it's just like the most ridiculous of circumstances that you find yourself in this job. But to be thrown into that as your first time working with another actor is definitely just a highlight for me.
It was definitely like you couldn't construct, if you were doing like an acting course, you couldn't construct like a better trust exercise between two actors. We're going to put you together. This is the first scene you're going to do in the middle of the night in this lake. But it was a great way to hang out with. We both got a sense that we had both had a sense of humor immediately.
Mhm.
God. And then, yeah, it was a great kicking off point for the rest of the film.
I'm also curious, you know, how you guys kind of get into character, stay into character. Are there things that you do to prepare on set? Or is there music you listen to?
I'm more of like in any role that I play, I think I internalize everything, and I'm not one of those actors that's really good at kind of articulating my process or a character's emotions because it's all kind of just happening in here. And for Mazzy, um, I kind of realized it as I was coming out of the film how I connected with her on maybe like a more subconscious level, and that was just going through a very similar experience, not very different, but like similar experience in the way that we were both in a new city, like living there and kind of building a new support system community and navigating that new environment. So when I look back on it, I think like that was kind of just like a coincidental preparation that was happening throughout the filming process.
When a script speaks to me, I just sort of get into the character, and I do a lot of research at the beginning. I write down her whole life or what I've imagined her life to be. And there was dialect coaching because I speak German and I have a German accent when I speak English. So there was a lot of like preparation in that sense and a lot of talks with Jordan and Eric. And then when I go to set, I sort of have it in my backpack, sort of imaginary backpack to pull out. But I also like just responding to whatever happens in the moment. You know, I feel like that's the most truthful thing to do.
Oh, absolutely. What about for you, Eric?
Yeah, I two things I really love is having time to prepare for something and have it just kind of marinate. And then the second thing is just being somewhere different. I love shooting on location. I hate being in a studio. So a combination of getting to go and shoot in Berlin again and just being on location the whole time. I mean, I don't think we had a single studio day in the whole
Wow.
film. And that just really feeds in, and I find that really, really important. I love being on real locations. I think it just infuses you with so much for your character. And yeah, Berlin's an amazing city.
Oh, that must have been so much fun. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for your time. Congratulations. Consider subscribing if you like this video and get even more entertainment news at popcultureplanet.net. See ya!